Like, Jerry's kids are going crazy right now. They're like, Dad, we want to go to school.
Yeah, never had one.
We never had flood days. Back in my day, we walked uphill both ways in floods. We just waited. Yeah, we just put our
We
waders
will
on and
begin
went to
in
school.
1 minute. Yeah, it's not. Yeah. But it's not. There's like, it's really quite minimal. The worst was the car and the water. But like, could have been way worse. The water up through the floorboard. So like, nothing came in through the doors. You could tell spots in the floorboard. So it basically was like, how high is the dirt in the crawl space? Then if it has less. Yeah, a dirt crawl, which was full. So, yeah. Could be way worse though. And guess who's got all the time on his hands now? Yeah. How great for you to be crawling around in holes, and I don't want you to be in there. But you refuse to.
That's great.
Let help.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Not even slightly. No, I tried. Okay, welcome everybody to the, what is the date even? April 21st, Tuesday, April 21st, 2026, Traverse City Planning Commission special meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:01, and the land acknowledgement that I have is the land on which we gather is the territory of the Ottawa and Chippewa peoples who have stewarded this land throughout the generations. Thank you for your strength and resilience in protecting this land and inspiring us to uphold our responsibilities to do the same. And roll call, please, Katie.
Commissioner Treadwell,
Here.
Commissioner Swanson,
Here.
Commissioner Cameron,
Present.
Commissioner Anderson,
Here.
Commissioner Deturi,
Here.
Commissioner Hershey,
Here.
Commissioner McGillivray,
Here.
Commissioner O'Brien,
Present.
Commissioner Reardon,
Here.
and Commissioner Holtry.
Here. Thank you, and big welcome to Commissioners Michelle and Megan. Megan, you were here last time, but it's like your second one and Michelle's first one, so congratulations, and we're so happy to have you here. Topics for consideration. The first item that we have is a consideration of a site plan review submitted by TXC Great Lakes Fund LP, DBA Tommy's Express for a proposed car wash on the properties located at 1054 and 1060 East Front Street. We have talked about this once before. We sent it for a traffic study that is now back, and the public hearing is happening. And I'll turn it over to Leslie.
Hello. If any of you haven't noticed, I'm not Sean, so he couldn't be here tonight, and he's briefed me on everything, so hopefully I can represent the planning department's review of these items. So Tommy's, as Anna mentioned, Tommy's did come before you in February with their site plan review. And just as a reminder, site plans generally are handled administratively, and any commercial uses that generate traffic end trips exceeding 500 do come before the Planning Commission. So that's the reason that this is here. And the last time it was reviewed, it was found to be mostly in keeping with all of the standards and requirements. And two issues have kind of come up, have risen to the top. The first of those being, again, traffic. Concerns about this very complicated intersection. So we do have joining us tonight, you can't see her, but I'm telling you that Lori Paltrick from Wade Trim, who performed the traffic study, has joined us tonight, and she's here to answer any questions you might have and tell you more about how the traffic study was accomplished. She has recommended, as part of her traffic study, that there be consideration for closing the entrance on Garfield, and not including that entrance due to some turning movement conflicts and other issues at that location. And the second issue that has kind of risen has been in regards to potential noise impacts. So as a reminder, the ordinance does allow that for these types of uses that there be a masonry wall adjacent to residential areas. So that is proposed here. It can be between 5 and 6 feet. And in Sean's review, he's recommended, in addition to that wall, some fast-growing vegetation in combination with that to help deaden noise traveling from the site onto adjacent properties. So I'll let you talk a little bit about that, but he's also recommended that that be handled in the details administratively. As a reminder, our zoning administrator, who will be issuing the land use permit ultimately for this, is a landscape architect, and he can work with them to select species that are appropriate there that will accomplish the effect we're after. So with that, I'm going to just turn it back to Anna and certainly try to answer any questions that might come up.
So I figure we turn to the group first, poll the group, see if we have any questions for the applicant, go through the typical process, or the engineer, and then usual process after that. Brian?
Okay, so have you talked to the applicant? Are they willing to get rid of the driveway?
I personally have not talked to them. I think they have been, they've been given this information, so we'll hear from them tonight.
I guess we don't have a site plan with that driveway eliminated. It'd be nice to know what types of changes that may or may not make to the site plan, other than, if they're just gonna square it off and eliminate that and then do something else with that, I don't know. But I guess that's my question. They've got a sidewalk connection or something in there. I don't know what that is. Anyways, that's what I want to know. And then my other question is, I wasn't here at the first time it was reviewed. So my other questions are, we talk about deliveries in small-scale trucks. I don't know what's a small-scale truck, minor point, just a question. But the other thing is, again, it comes down to the question about hazardous substances or potential pollutants. And my question is, did staff receive a list of the chemicals they use to wash cars?
So this site plan did come before the staff level design team, and some of those questions were addressed at that level, including, because there's representation on the design team from the city utilities, and I know that those questions did come up, and there were conversations back and forth between the Tommy's engineer and the engineers and stormwater folk, or I'm sorry, wastewater people at the city. And again, they might be able to tell you more about that, but it was something that came up, and I know that they've reviewed
So it was
that.
discussed and reviewed. So of
And-
what the materials are that are being used in the car wash. Okay, because it's not in the staff just dismisses it. No hazardous materials, boom. And that's not really an answer in the staff report. I know it wasn't your staff report.
Right.
But it doesn't really address it, but it's also what raises questions among the public about this. I'm sure it's not going to be an issue. I'm sure it's going to be, would be addressed. But again, it's just something I thought should be,
And-
I want to know if it needed to be a condition or if it's already been done.
So, and I have to tell you, it was a question that I had as well. And the way I understand it, and again, I think Tommy's can address this better than I can, but the way that I understood it at the staff level review and design team was that there's some on-site treatment, and it's a recycling system with some treatment on site. There's a building committed to that process on the site. And so anything that goes back into the city sewer system is treated, and I assume that there's nothing that shouldn't be going into the city system that would be present.
Jackie?
This has been my first chance to, in my time on the Planning Commission, review a traffic study. And there were a couple of questions that were raised as I went through it. One had to do with the source of the assumption of volume of washes. And I believe the Wade Trim report referenced a standard manual that would give them input on that. And I just wondered if we can verify how that aligns with this high-speed car wash that at last meeting told us that they were going to be processing 200 vehicles an hour.
I think that's a Lori
Hi.
question. So, go
Yeah.
ahead, Lori.
You heard that, Lori?
Good, thank you.
Yeah, so as part of the traffic impact study, we can use two different ways to generate the traffic. So one way is a standard best practice, which is the Institute of Transportation Engineer trip generation manual. That's a collection of data and past projects from actual sites. And we looked at that first, and we've got a total of, I think it was 88 entering trips during the weekend peak hour, 68 during the weekday afternoon. And another source you can look to is actual data from similar sites. So Tommy's had some actual data that they were able to provide to us, and it closely aligned with the numbers that we got from the trip generation data. So that's what we used.
So I'm hearing you say that the 88 weekend and 68 weekday were the numbers that you used in analyzing traffic impact?
Yes, we modeled the network in the area adjacent to the driveways for existing conditions and then conditions with those trips added to it.
Thank you. So it sounds as though there might be a discrepancy between the numbers we heard in February from Tommy's and the numbers they supplied you. Thank you.
I guess my interpretation would not be a discrepancy, but like Tommy's is more than able to grab their numbers from other locations or estimate out a top, but there's no, like, until we see that in this area, we could predict any sort of number. I think that there's always going to be that discrepancy, but like we can't ever try to get the perfect number or perfect image of what could happen there until we see an example of it.
If I might comment back on that, the conversation in February, I think, was based on their actual estimates of revenue generated, and then, divided by the average cost of a car wash, and they confirmed that somewhere between 150 to 200 washes per hour was a viable estimate for us to work with. So,
no, I hear that, and that doesn't guarantee that's happening. That's all I'm saying.
I think
there
we
has
can
to
only
be.
rely on the applicant.
We can. I think there's just no guarantee we can use any numbers like that for certainty. Anything else from us before we go to the applicant? Debbie?
So I have a question about noise and hours of operation. So I don't think anywhere we know the hours of operation, and the noise ordinance decibels are different for different hours. So I'd like to hear the hours of operation if we know them.
Okay. Shay.
So there, let's say the applicant closes the Garfield entrance, but they're still gonna have those two curb cuts, we'll call them, into the alley. I keep coming back to, it's gonna generate a lot of traffic in the alley, and like, I know the applicant said that they would fix the alley, but it's more about maintenance for me, like, who is responsible for maintaining that? And I know that generally it falls on the neighbors to, do a special assessment to fix that. I guess like, I think I made it pretty clear last time that still not super happy with this. I'm happy that the curb cut is going away from Garfield, but I think it's gonna generate a lot more traffic in the alley, which leads to long-term maintenance issues. So, I don't know that there's a question there, just stating a fact, I think.
I've got a list for Tommy's when they come up, so. Jackie?
One of the things that I think has not yet been discussed here is full issues about cyclist and pedestrian safety at that intersection. And, given that there are sidewalks, there are multiple pedestrian crossings, there's even a marked bicycle lane on the west side of Garfield where this parcel is located. I wondered, since the city has adopted its Complete Streets policy and now has established its Complete Streets Advisory Board, if they shouldn't be given an opportunity to look out for multimodal safety and give us some input back, specifically focusing on cyclists and pedestrians.
I know that was addressed in the traffic study. Lori, do you have anything to add on that front?
As part of the traffic study, yes, we always do a safety analysis, more so looking at the traffic crash data and the history and the patterns that are present. So we looked at the crashes between 2021 to 2025. There was 122 crashes, which is about 24 crashes a year. And there were, let me see here, 1 pedestrian and 4 bicyclist crashes. So definitely some concern with, adding additional curb cut that's so close to the intersection of Front and Garfield. The traffic models showed that the northbound queuing would actually back up past the driveway during the peak hours. So that was another reason that we thought it would be best for safety, not only for vehicles, but for also people walking and biking in that area. There's a lot of different conflicts, a lot of different movements with the driveway across. So we did not do an in-depth pedestrian analysis, but definitely think that.
Thank you. I can't tell if she got cut off or she just stopped speaking. Okay.
Ask her, is she here?
Lori, can you hear us?
No.
Lori, can you hear us?
TBD.
Well,
Still there. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. We'll keep moving and come back to
I
her.
don't know if this was her, so I'm not sure.
Anything else from this group? I think we have a handful of things we can ask Tommy's right away, and then it'll always come back to us after public hearing as well. Jackie?
This is an issue that I felt was asked, but perhaps not fully answered at our February session, and that had to do with the use of a low decorative wall to satisfy the requirement that 60% of the frontage on East Front be occupied by the building itself. So I would like to hear more from staff on that issue, and you know, I'm concerned about it.
Okay. Seeing nothing else from the group, do you have an answer on that one, Leslie, or?
I know that there was discussion with the city attorney regarding the different sets of standards and what is administratively reviewed and what is the purview of the planning commission. And it was my understanding that the standards of review that are highlighted in the staff report are those that are the planning commission's purview, and a lot of the other standards are site plan review related at the administrative level for determination of compliance with those standards. So I think I'll hand that to Lauren.
I don't have the specific provision pulled up on my computer. I could pull it up. But we did discuss it, and this is part of the ordinance that's specifically within the planning director's purview to review. And since he did that, that is sort of off your plate as the planning commission. That's not one of the standards that is within the ordinance for this commission to review. That is one for the planning director to review.
So just to be sure I'm clear, this was done prior to our February meeting at the discretion of the planning director, and we no longer have input on that.
Right. It's
Have
not
that correct?
It's not that you no longer have input. It's just not the planning
We
commission.
never did.
Doesn't have input on that particular. The ordinance assigns that decision to the planning director and not to the planning commission.
Thank you for the clarity.
Okay, I'm gonna turn to the applicant and see if they can answer a couple questions. I've jotted them down. I'm sure you tracked, but the Garfield entrance, conversations about Garfield entrance. In case you know, the conversation around chemicals and pollutants and how that was resolved. Looks like, oh, the traffic study, those, just the numbers that you gave us originally. Noise and hours in operation. I think that's probably it for now. The last one I have is cyclist pedestrian safety, so if you have anything on that topic, that'd be great, but, yeah,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you. My name is Brett Doctor. I'm Vice President of Real Estate for Tommy's. Hello again to some of you, a lot of new faces here from February, so appreciate that. And again, I will offer at the last meeting, whether you want the full-blown presentation, you know, with our engineer and everybody to do that, but it sounds like you've all done your homework and understand the application pretty well. Some of you have sat through that already. To answer some questions of folks that haven't been here, I'll try to do that as well, and what's changed since then. So we've been working on this project for over 4 years. At the time, it was more price-oriented and prohibitive from us doing it. The prices come into the realm where we can do this project now, and have really looked forward to doing it and being a part of this community. We're a Holland-based company, West Michigan-based. This is going to be one of our corporate stores that we run corporately with local talent, and it's going to be amazing. I think for all the concerns you have, you're going to be very well pleased with it. This is the top of the line, the state of the art, the best experience that you'll have washing your car. So I just want to reiterate that. So we spent a lot of time in the past year with staff, actually going back 4 years ago with some other concerns, with staff and with the various departments. We submitted the application last fall, worked through with the planning department on a number of issues, made the formal application. It did go through all of your city and county departments for everything from stormwater treatment, and that's when they reviewed the what was being discharged, what would get to the stormwater, what would get to the sanitary. It went through all of your public works in terms of the power consumptions and you name it. The only deficiency that came out of staff reports last meeting, came up last meeting, was at the time you did not have a city engineer on staff, a city engineer on staff that dealt with traffic, a traffic engineer on staff. So that engineer was not, the engineering department was not able to sign off on the traffic study. So you brought it up as a continued concern, and it was tabled, or I forget what you called it, recessed, whatever, from that meeting to this, and we entered into a traffic study. If you'll remember, I did try to say, well, you can prove it conditionally upon us removing the Garfield entrance if the traffic study proves that. I'm happy to say that we are willing to do that. That was the only deficiency. That is one of the remaining concerns in the staff report. The traffic study showed the Garfield entrance should be closed, and staff, city attorney, et cetera, agreed that that should happen, and we are agreeable to that. We do think it would function just fine without it. People know how to get in there. There's currently a site there right now, or a curb cut there right now, with a full-blown coffee shop there, and it's their only entrance and access besides the alley. So we're confident it could work, but neither here nor there. We're willing to let it go. The only other concern in there was the additional vegetation for the screening wall on the alley, and we were agreeable to work with that. We've worked with Dave on many elements of the plan in terms of landscaping and so forth, so we think it would be good to work with him in trying to find some fast-growing species that would accommodate that. So I'm going to address a couple of your concerns, and then I want to introduce you just to a couple people here that we have here that can address maybe more of them, because I'm not an expert on any of it. I know the real estate, and I know that side of things, and I've been in your seat before, so I understand your concerns and your questions and want to make sure you get it done right. So I will answer a question on the traffic study. Not that it matters anymore, because we're agreeing to eliminate the Garfield entrance, and we think that'll be helpful. And then just continue that sidewalk straight through there like it should be without the drive curb cut there. Traffic generation, I don't know where it was confused or not, but we agree with those average numbers, average hour numbers. Our car wash is designed, and that's why we're the best, one of the best. It's a belt. It's not one of those chain and rollers where you got to guide yourself into that track and scratch your rims and all that kind of stuff. It's a belt, and you get through. And we can process cars in excess of 200 cars an hour. That's why you don't see them backing up into the roads like other car washes, even in this area. And I understand your concern. We try to eliminate that concern by doing that. We don't ever have it turned up that high, except on those busy West Michigan days after the snow, and you get a little bit of sunshine. So, so we can process that fast. We don't. We can process as fast. We generally are processing about 180 cars an hour, but that's not how many go through. That's the belt speed. That is the belt speed. That can be done. So I just wanted to address that. We agree with the traffic study. We also agree that we could probably get the traffic study to say anything you want it to say. But yeah, to address that concern. And the chemicals, that was addressed with the city engineers as well during their review.
The last one was hours of operation.
Hours of operation, we leave that up to our franchises. We have 275 franchises across the country. 6 to 10 is probably the maximum hours we'd ever allow. Most sites in West Michigan are 7 to 9. I think our corporate stores are all 7 to 9. I'd have to look up Gaylord and Cadillac, but that would be a good representation because that would be on the same staffing situations. So,
okay.
And we agree that that landscaping wall in the back, or landscaping added to the wall, masonry wall, would work out well. So, having said that, I think we have met all the standards for the review, addressed everything at the staff levels, at all the department levels, and have a plan that I think you'll really be happy with. But having said that, and understanding that you have a lot to consider and everything else, I just want to introduce you so we know I have the full contingent here of people to answer any of your questions. And I want to ask one person to speak after that in a second. But we have with us our engineer from Naderveld, Steve Whitty, who you heard from a little bit last time. Ethan Mao is our project manager at Tommy's. Our general counsel is Taylor Webb in the back there. We have hired local counsel Robert Parker here, and the sellers counsel is also represented here as well, Katie Sabo. So anything you, we think we have the contingent covered here, if any questions you might have and so forth. But I did want Robert to just address just a little bit of the situation and how we got here and where we hope to end up tonight. So thank you for your time. Oh, by the way, we do have a copy of that plan. We got the staff report at the same time that suggested us closing Garfield. We have a full-size version. We have a ledger-size versions for you to see with that Garfield Drive closed. So we do have that.
Can you
for
share that?
Yeah, we would like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Robert Parker, 901 Garfield, Traverse City, law firm Parker Harvey. I've looked at this sort of from a high altitude perspective. I'm not getting down into the granular level like the engineers and so forth, and purely from a land use perspective. This, of course, is a use as of right within the zoning district. And what that means is if, it's not necessary to get a special land use permit or anything like that. It comes before the Planning Commission, though, on a site plan review. I think where the tension is created in the application is in addressing the design standards in 134409. And those design standards obviously are intended, have to be one size fits all. We don't, as community, we don't really know, can't anticipate with preciseness what sort of development proposals are going to emerge. And so they are necessarily broad and sometimes lack specifics, but do contain a general outline of the character that the community is looking for. I think where the problem arises in this particular project is it is so unique, and by nature a car wash is certain dimensions in its formation and how it sits on the property is dictated by the function. And so I think that's where we bumped into a couple of these design standards in 134409. I'm pleased, though, that I think that we've worked through all of those. And with working with staff, it seems apparent to me that compromises, reasonable compromises, have been reached on all of them to satisfy the spirit of the ordinance. And so I think, again, probably meeting each of those precisely, probably for any project, is going to be difficult. But I think through conversations with the staff and working through these issues, we've been able to come up with solutions to all of those, which meets the spirit, certainly the spirit of the ordinance. Again, just reminding everybody, this is a use as of right, and it is our hope and expectation that the application will be affirmatively addressed this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions from this group now that we've gotten some preliminary answers? No? Oh, Brian?
Is there, are we going to hear from the engineer?
We can, if you'd like. I looked at.
Just about the new
That's a
design.
good point. That's a good point. That's fair.
Yeah, that's what it's indicating.
I think we were all digging into our copy, but thank you.
Commissioners, my name is Steve Weedy from Netterveld. Thank you again for your time and consideration regarding this request. I think most of the questions were answered as the Planning Commission were kind of commenting on things. I was jotting them down myself, so maybe I'll backtrack a little bit. The main contention at the last meeting was traffic, as everybody that was here already knows. With the outcome of the traffic study, we have agreed to eliminate the drive entrance off Garfield. Since the timing of that was kind of at the last minute, I did hand out to you ledger-sized plans of the site plan. I do have full-size copies of even the grading plan and utility plan, but I figured the Planning Commission wouldn't necessarily be interested in that stuff, but I could go over that with you if you'd like. On the plans, we eliminated the driveway, obviously. The other difference between this plan and the last plan is I did add 2 vacuum spaces. If that's a deal breaker, I don't think that's necessarily a make or break deal to have 2 more vacuum spaces, but to use up that area, I did add 2 vacuum spaces. I extended the 5-foot to 6-foot tall masonry wall out closer to Garfield, so that got a little bit longer. The drive entrances off the alley I kept exactly the same as before, and those 2 entrances line up with the existing Burger King's entrances. We did contemplate moving the east driveway off the alley further to the east. We can still do that, but again, I kept it where the existing Burger King entrance is now, figuring that to me made sense, but if staff or Planning Commission wants us to slide that further east, that's, I'm sure, fine as well. There was a question on the size of truck deliveries. They don't really get trucks, is my understanding. It's really all kind of van, box trucks type things, vehicles, so they can easily fit in a normal parking space, and those typically aren't done during business hours, so again, we don't need like a loading dock or a semi space for that. There's a question on the materials used and the possible pollutants for this. I believe all that information was shared with city staff and have been reviewed. I will point out that Tommy's has hundreds of locations across the country, and I do know for certain that many municipalities in West Michigan have specifically looked at the materials used to wash cars, and personally I've never had a concern expressed back to me from a DPW, stormwater review, or anything of the nature. So there's nothing really atypical that Tommy's uses as what any car wash would use. There is a comment about water reclaim. We do have, or Tommy's does have a water reclaim system. That's really for the water that's used to wash the car. About 1/3 of the water that washes the car is reclaimed and then reused as, I call it gray water, but it's not really that. It's been used once, but then reused as part of the car wash process. That helps limit the amount of water usage, which is obviously a good thing. There's a question again on the traffic. The traffic study that the city's consultant completed had estimated vehicle trips of 170 trips per peak hour. Other traffic studies that Tommy's has done, they've had Fleece and Vandenbrink do those. The trip generation that Fleece and Vandenbrink has historically used is between 100 and 130. So the city's traffic consultant used a little bit higher number, which is perfectly fine. And I will point out that the traffic study was done by the city's consultant. It was not done by Tommy's consultant. So if there was any concern about, well, the traffic study was shifted to benefit Tommy's, that is not the case, because it was the city's consultant that did that. And the outcome of that study was, again, the elimination of the Garfield entrance, which we're okay with. And then I think that was really the main concern that was brought up. The level of service on the streets didn't change. I think the traffic study did bring up possibly adding a small taper, but then in the city's consultant talking to the city department, that was decided not a good deal, or not a good idea to do, so that was eliminated. There's a question on the noise. As Brett indicated, on our plans even, there's a general note saying that the maximum hours of operation is 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., but that's really the maximum it is. A lot of stores have started an hour later, closed an hour earlier. To compensate for the noise, we are adding that 6-foot tall masonry wall all along the alley. The other thing I'll point out is that the vacuums are not right at that 10-foot setback. There's another drive aisle between there, so we're not hugging right up next to that alleyway. I'm sure you've all been to the site, and not that we can claim benefit for it, but the neighbors to the south of the site, the neighbor closest to Garfield has garages there. Next door has a fence. And then further to the west, opposite of us, that's really where it's mostly open. But then their house is obviously further to the south. So it's not like their house is right up next to the alley either. There's a question on the alley maintenance. As was indicated last meeting, Tommy's has agreed to modify and improve the alley. So we'll work with city staff on that. As far as ongoing maintenance is concerned, Tommy's is a good neighbor. So if there's, assessment or their portion of the payment, they're willing to do that, but the alley is there for everybody's benefit, and so that's our opinion on that. And then there was a question on the cyclist or the pedestrians. Regarding that, I'll say with the elimination of the Garfield entrance, that'll obviously help the conflicts, help the safety there. And then I will also say that regardless of what the use is here, there's always going to be that concern for pedestrian safety. So I don't care if it's a Burger King, I don't care if it's a Tommy's Express, I don't care if it's a multifamily residential, you're always going to have that conflict there between pedestrians and people in cars. And then the last thing that I'll say that was questioned again is on that decorative wall and the 60% building coverage. And I believe the attorney mentioned this too, but specifically the ordinance actually gives that discretion to the planning director. That's actually section 1344.09. And then it says, unless determined to be impractical by the planning director, the building width shall not be less than 60 feet of the property width at the street. So the planning director, we've worked with him and he has come to that conclusion. Again, I think that's under his purview as opposed to the planning commission. So that being said, I really appreciate your time. I didn't mean to ramble on, but I think there were some loose questions asked that weren't addressed, so I wanted to address those. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian?
So you filter the water, it creates some type of sludge, I'm assuming, that's left over. How is that removed?
It's not, there's no filtering. The water reclaim system, well, there's baffles and weir walls, so the sediment settles out of it, but there's no like filter or anything that it goes through.
But you have a,
And then the outlet to that is the sanitary sewer.
right, and you have a sediment trap.
Correct,
Okay.
yep.
And how often does that have to get removed?
How often are those pumped? Do you have any?
Depends how busy the wash is or the cars are, but usually quarterly.
So it's like, and it's removed almost like
Septic.
septic treatment plant, Holly. Thank you.
Yeah, you can go again. I see.
I guess, you know, so I appreciate them giving us a new plan. I'm assuming that, you know, there'll be there'll be additionally, you'll be creating a new landscape plan with the request from the city. And that would be reviewed by staff anyway, so I'm not worried about that. That's it for my questions.
Thank you. Okay, seeing nobody jumping out of their seats, I'm going to go open the public hearing, and then we'll wait. Do we have to move? Do we need a motion before we go to public?
I think it's actually.
Oh, great, public comment. Okay,
You need a motion before public comment.
okay,
No, we don't.
No, you don't?
No, we
Okay.
don't need a motion for public
we
comment.
don't?
That's how we usually do it at city commission, so.
Well, I, more discussion
We've done both.
before we make a motion, so
Okay. We have done both.
I'm rather hear public comment first.
Okay. Okay, let's move to public comment. Is there anybody that would like to make public comment on this item? You can just come right up to the podium. We need your name, address, and whether or not you're a city resident. And you will have 3 minutes, and Katie has a little timer that'll go off.
There's no clock in here. Good evening. I'm Steve Brown. I'm here with my wife Kelly and our son Tyler. We own the property, one of the properties directly behind the proposed car wash on East State Street. Our address is 1039. We know that the traffic study was published, given to you late last week, posted, I don't know if it was late Thursday or late Friday, it's all a blur to me, but I pulled it up when it was there and I got to look at it. That's why I apologize now for getting you, sending you about this time last night, our comments, our concerns, which hopefully you all have received. I don't expect you've necessarily been able to read that so quickly. I'm hopeful. But we have some pretty serious concerns about this proposal and whether or not it's a by right plan doesn't alleviate the concerns. The decision determination about whether it's a by right plan is the city's to make. And there'll be discussion later in this session tonight on trying to fix some of these problems through ordinance revisions, which I commend you for. And maybe I'll back up first, and I don't want to take too much time doing this, but I want to acknowledge your personal commitments to helping out in what you're doing and volunteering your time and your energy, and acknowledge the staff who've been helpful for us in talking about this. But I would like some acknowledgement or notice as to whether you did receive the email that we sent. Okay, very good. Obviously, we have concerns about what the operation of this facility how it might impact our living there and quality of life and the property value there as well for us and our neighbors. And some of our neighbors have expressed support for us raising these issues. We highlighted traffic, noise, and water as three main issues. And those are the main issues. Do we have the traffic engineer back online?
I think she's listening. Lori, are you still listening?
Can you hear me? I'm here.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep, good.
Okay.
So I can't cover everything that's in the letter that we sent, but I trust that you've read it or you will read it and you can consider it that way. The fact that the literal counts of traffic to establish baseline traffic density or volume in that area, and particularly at the main intersection there at Garfield and East Front, that those counts were done in early March of this year is surprising.
Your time's up.
My time's up.
Yeah, thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Steve.
Do you have a provision to allow somebody to use another public comment time?
We do not.
Somebody else can speak.
No, but many other people can speak.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm done. Please read the letter.
Thank you. Any other public comment this evening on this item?
Kelly Brown, 1039 East State Street owner. I am concerned about the change that we just heard about tonight because I understand that closing Garfield is a safety concern because of congestion at the intersection. But I also think that I heard Brian say that we could be responsible for an assessment for improving the alley, and I also heard 100 or more cars per hour, which doesn't make sense to me. We don't want that much traffic in the alley. And also, the walls do not block the sound from the residential area. So even though 6 feet is better than 5, there's still 2 openings there that are going to affect that residential area. So I'm not sure that that's solving any problems by closing the Garfield entrance and taking the property off, taking the traffic off of the property and putting it into the public alley and making that a maintenance problem for the homeowners adjacent to that. And also, I may not understand how the system works, but if you're adding extra banks of vacuums, that just seems to make the noise ordinance more of a problem. And from what I understood from the tables of the allowable decibel levels, we know already that the operation of those will exceed what's allowable in a residential area. So it seems like you would be approving something that is certain to be a noise violation. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment on this agenda item? Okay, seeing none, I'll close public comment and come back to the group. Do we have a motion? Do we want to talk some more? Okay, Mitch, then Brian.
Yeah, question for Lauren. We had a site plan that we reviewed that was in our packets. Then a condition was proposed. We didn't vote on that condition. based on the traffic study. The applicant submitted a site plan that meets those conditions. Do we have to look at the site plan that was in the packet in compliance with the posted meeting and Open Meetings Act time requirements, or can we look at and consider either of these plans equally?
My suggestion would be that if the planning commission's desire is to make sure that that curb cut goes away, to still include that condition in whatever action that you take, even though there's a second site plan.
Brian, I think you indicated you wanted to say something.
Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna start with, and I told you so. When that Shell station went in further east on Munson Avenue, I voted against it. And I cautioned this, we're gonna see more developments like this. And the city commission and the planning commission at the time ignored it. Didn't like the Rite Aid, same thing. We've talked about doing corridor regulations, you know, but it seems like now that it's moved east of or west of Garfield, we're getting more attention to it. I don't like this project, okay? If it was up to me, I'd say no, but I don't have the, my discretion is limited here. You know, and nothing against actually, I think it's probably gonna be the best car wash we've seen up here, but we'll wait and see. But that's neither here nor there. I know a lot of people brought up a lot of issues. The long-term maintenance issue of the alley, it's a public alley. City pays 50% for alley reconstructions. Property owners pay the other 50%. That would be split among, you know, for that section of alley, it would be 50%, or half of that would be covered by, so all the property owners would have to agree to it if you want your alley improved. Rarely do they get it improved. I haven't been down that alley in a while.
Not good.
But it wasn't a good alley before, and it's gonna be an improvement for a while. I don't think you can basically deny a property owner access to an alley. It's a public right-of-way. The noise issue, if I make a motion, I'll strike those extra sites, those extra vacuuming sites. I think it makes it difficult with, currently we would have a tree there, and that suddenly that island becomes so narrow, I don't think it could support a tree. So I would definitely move to strike the extra vacuuming slots that's in this site plan. But the noise is, you know, the city's got a noise ordinance. The city has people who are trained to measure for noise violations, and you're never going to know if this is going to work until it's built. That's just the way noise things are. And if they're in a violation, you're going to have to, you know, then you're going to have to complain to the city. But it's not no noise. It's going to be noise above the level set by the city commission. It's not a level set by the planning commission. It's the city commission sets the noise ordinance. Yeah, it's just, you know, I had concerns because of the way the staff report addressed the issue with the chemicals, PFAS, all that stuff. But apparently, I've been told it was discussed and reviewed in detail. It's just not reflected in the staff report. So I will take their word for it that they'd spent time discussing it. It's pretty much where we rely on staff, and it's kind of our what has to happen. And let's be honest, these things are all over the place, and the newer ones are better than the older ones. And I don't know if we are not experts, and we don't have anyone coming up and telling us that this is a danger to anyone who's qualified, saying this is a danger to the environment. that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, I understand all the concerns. Traffic studies, I've watched traffic studies be used, and whenever a traffic study doesn't support your point of view, it's a flawed traffic study. And you look at it, but these traffic studies, the traffic engineers are literally traffic engineers. It's what they're certified in, they're trained in, they have to follow certain standards. The standards are always the same, and we always think there's either more cars or less cars. But I can also tell you, I've seen these things go to court, and the traffic engineer's position is going to, basically is going to carry the day. So I don't see how we can deny it based on our own traffic study. And if they had not come up with a plan for me to look at today, I would have said we should delay it for 2 more weeks until we get a plan in front of us, but we have one. So I'm going to reluctantly support this going forward. And I might even, if anyone else has any comments, great. Otherwise, I'll look to see about making a motion. I can find it on this page.
Mitch has a hand, and
Yeah.
Jerry is looking at me like he wants to say something.
Question for staff, does the closure of the driveway on Garfield and thus not having additional passageway through there have any impact on the requirement of lot coverage along that dimension?
Again, it's my understanding that when the zoning administrator and planner issue the land use permit and a final approval of the site plan, they'll reevaluate all of those standards to ensure that they're still being met.
Debbie?
Just because the issue was raised, Lori is her name? Lori? Lori, in your traffic
Yes.
study, was the summer traffic considered?
Yeah, so at the time that we were tasked to conduct the study, we took the counts in the springtime, which is not ideal, especially in this area of the state where you have a lot of tourist traffic. But we did have counts. We did citywide counts for another project that were taken at the peak in August, and we compared those counts to the August. They were fairly similar, and that may have to do with some of the construction that's been going on in different areas. So at that particular location, we actually did have August counts, and it was pretty similar. So for the purposes of this, measuring the Q links northbound were showing that the traffic was going to back up past that driveway. And that's one of the other main reasons based on the model that we recommended moving it. And that aspect of it would not change if we had separate counts.
Okay,
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry?
Yeah, I just think it's a good reminder that just because we don't, being a planning commissioner, just because we don't like something doesn't mean we can vote no. And I think that's the unfortunate, because I see some problems, but again, we have to remember our role, and then also how do we fix this moving forward, so.
Which I think we're taking
Right,
steps
just a
toward.
little, but yes.
Mitch?
Yeah, to that point, last week I went to a different planning commission that similarly had a contentious item on the agenda, a proposal for a special land use permit in Leland Township. And one, that process had been before the board for a longer period of time than this has been, had more meetings, had more public comments, but it also came with, especially when there were substantial questions raised in the initial finding of fact, a second legal opinion was brought forward that did a deeper analysis and gave multiple courses of action for the Planning Commission to take that were seen as having firm legal grounds. We do not have multiple courses of action before us. unless Lauren wants to weigh in.
No.
No.
I just had one
Yeah?
comment, and this is not to at all place a finger on the scale, but just for your comfort and the public who may be watching, the city does have a wastewater discharge ordinance, a whole chapter, it's 1043, that deals with what ends up in the sanitary. And there is an inspection of manholes that goes on. It's monitored by our partners at Jacobs that run the plant. So we do know what ends up at the plant, and they test for that to make sure that it doesn't damage the plant and that it also complies with state and federal regulations for discharged water.
Thank you. That's really helpful. Shay?
I'm with Brian on this. I will reluctantly support this. But I think this highlights how important the rewrite is and how, like, we should make changes knowing that we're not going to get everything 100%, but we should make changes. So.
You are correct. Brian?
Yes, I'll make the motion,
Okay.
which I never thought I'd be doing this. but,
Yeah, me neither.
I feel like we've exhausted all options. And nothing personal against the people at Tommy's. But anyways, motion that the staff report for site plan review application 26 SPR-01 be adopted to establish a finding of fact, and that the application submitted by TXC Great Lakes Fund LP, doing business as Tommy's Express, to construct an automatic enclosed car wash with vacuum stations and a mat washing building at 1054 and 1060 East Front Street be approved with the following conditions. 1, the two parcels should be combined as one. 2, that a series of fast-growing trees be planted along the screening wall to mitigate sound traveling onto neighboring properties. This is where I'm going to change it, so. And that the landscape plan be updated to recognize the elimination of the driveway, and that the landscape plan and plantings be approved by the city zoning administrator. Got it?
But you're not going to ask me to read this back tonight.
And 3, the proposed curb cut on Garfield Avenue be prohibited with ingress and egress provided through the alley south of the properties and from East Front Street through a right-in, right-out configuration as required by the Michigan Department of Transportation. And 4, that no additional vacuum stations are added. I think you said there was 2. We'll just say beyond what was submitted in the original site plan.
I think she's got it.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion and a support. So we're going forward with our vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Roll call vote, please.
Oh, give me a second. Who supported that? Was that Jerry or Shay?
Shay. Sorry, maybe I should have given you more time.
No, sorry, just, I need to bring it up. Oh, no. Sorry. I have it already. Okay. Commissioner Deturi?
Yes.
Commissioner Hershey?
Yes.
Commissioner McGillivray?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Brien?
Yes.
Commissioner Treadwell?
Yes.
Commissioner Swanson?
Yes.
Commissioner Reardon?
Yes.
Commissioner Holtree?
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson?
No.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you all for your time, really appreciate it, your consideration. I know you're in a tough position, so.
Thank you. I'm going to give it a second to.
And we're done with Lori then?
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
Lori, thank you so much.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great night.
You too.
You too. So, I don't know if this is the proper venue. She'll be here after
Yeah,
if you have a
can get with
question.
me after, find me in my office hours.
And that's when we have our public comment.
No, that's when we have our public comment. We have it on every agenda item. And we have a generalized public comment again at the end. So you do have 2 avenues for public comment. I don't think it'll be a couple hours.
Let's hope not.
It'll be a
Yeah,
shorter
we don't
meeting
want
than
it
the
to be a
city
couple
meeting
hours.
yesterday.
Yeah, let's hope.
Okay, we're moving on to item B, continued discussion on a zoning amendment, zoning text amendment to officially add municipal markets, to the OS Open Space District. Am I kicking this one to you, Lauren, instead?
You're certainly welcome to if you would like to.
Basically, it's just a continuation of the conversation from last time. I think you can elaborate if people had any other questions. I don't think we had any. So I guess I'll,
Well, I have a question.
Yeah,
Let me
Brian.
kick it off, okay. So, and this is a question I sent to Sean, but he's not here. And my question is, well, one, it's related, but a separate topic, is because of the size of the pavilion, and I haven't double-checked on it, would it require a special use permit?
Right. So I did look at that. Sean forwarded that to me. And my opinion is no. It's a structure. And the reason that I say that is a couple of reasons. Number one is that I think it meets the definition of a structure, which talks about pergolas as well. So I think this is more akin to a pergola. But if you take a deeper dive into the definitions and what it means to have a square footage, when it refers to that, the square footage is defined as being measured from the walls. So it's really buildings that would require a special land use permit, not a structure like a pergola or this type of pavilion.
So, under the zoning, a structure isn't a building, and a building
There's,
is a structure.
it's separately
defined.
defined in
Yeah.
the ordinance.
So
correct.
building is defined, structure is defined.
Right.
Okay.
Is
so
that
I-
like a square is a rectangle,
Yeah,
but a
it is kinda
rectangle
chicken
isn't
or
a
the egg.
square? Something like that?
So I understand the language here is simple. My question is, do we want to address the actual definition of municipal markets? I'd like to see that at the next meeting, to see, and can we even tweak that at the public hearing, or is it too late for that?
Is that scheduled for the first meeting in May?
It is, or
Okay.
May 5th, yeah.
I think we can bring you back something of a tightened up definition of a municipal market before that meeting to have in your packet.
Okay.
Is that help?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Jackie?
Just to follow up on a lingering question from last time in terms of unintended consequences. I know we're focused on the Lot B and the potential farmers market pavilion structure. With the help of some research from various city sources, it appears that there are 28 other OS or open space zoned parcels in Traverse City that will be impacted by whatever is decided here, that will essentially be opened up for municipal market use by right. And they include things like F&M Park and East Bay Park and Clinch Marina and Hannah Park, and even our smallest neighborhood parks will be open for potential municipal market use. So I'm not sure that that was the intention of this. As a matter of fact, my understanding, and please correct me, is that the purpose of this is to expedite release of RFPs for construction of the DDA's Farmers Market Pavilion project. And so that's why this is sort of a fast track. And so I guess I would ask each of my colleagues here to think about those unintended consequences on 28 other city parks, and to ask our legal advisor whether there are ways to put some guardrails around this that wouldn't wouldn't have that unintended consequence.
Certainly. So I think that lends also to the definition, and it's sort of inherent in the words municipal markets. It would be really up to the city commission where those would be, because they're municipal. They're not just private folks that can now come wandering onto all of our parks and have a market. So aside from any permitting processes that would go on, any and all construction or alterations to any of that OS would end up being in the purview of the city commission to approve or not approve those types of uses in the parks.
And I have no problem with it as long as we have a tight definition of municipal market. I don't see why we couldn't have simultaneous little markets popping up. I like that idea. Brian?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I mean, it's a potential use, and honestly, after having long email correspondence with the local attorney, I question whether or not the current farmer's market is actually legal. But it's, it's been going on for, since 1984, and I don't think anybody wants to stop it. Now, again, I think you just have to say these are, the open space are the open space parks. And if the city commission wants to use them for some reason, for some type of market or promotional event, then I guess the question becomes, do you trust the people you elected to run the city, to manage the parks? And again, then the question is, it's also a question is, is this pavilion an appropriate use? Well, that's really a question for the Parks and Rec Commission and the City Commission. It's not a question for us. Our question is, does it meet, is it an acceptable use under the master plan? Not whether it's a good use or the best use.
Yeah.
Just, is it a good use? Or not, no, is it an acceptable use? Whether you agree with it or not, that's never the question for us. I just kind of believe we got to stay in our lane going forward. So again, I agree that, I'd like to see the definition of municipal markets, what it means tightened up a little bit, but, I mean, we can say what we want, but if the city commission wants to put a market there, they can change the zoning code and be done at any point. They don't need us.
Without us.
Yeah, we can say no on this, and then they can go say yes, and, they're the final arbiter of this. We just give them a recommendation. In this case, I think the recommendation is good.
Jackie?
If I could share some background information that became a topic of discussion last night at the City Commission meeting, and that was around Parks and Recreation and their responsibility for determining uses of parks. My understanding is that they are embarking upon a process to review the park use policy, which currently is structured along the lines of high-impact and low-impact events, which are treated somewhat differently. They are considering moving in a direction of commercial uses versus community uses and restructuring their park use policy along those lines. So I appreciate your commitment to redefining municipal markets, and I'd just like to be sure that we are thinking about how this may coordinate or not with the intentions of the Parks and Recs Commission.
Debbie?
I hope this isn't too nitpicky, but last time I remember we had a discussion that people who want to hold a market can apply to do that, correct? Am I correct? Like if I wanted to do a Christmas market in a park, I could apply, right?
Right, it would be through the Parks and Public Land Use Policy.
So
and you get a
why do
permit.
we only have municipal market and not markets in here? Because other types of markets are already happening with a permit.
I think the reason is because those private uses in public spaces within the city are handled through a permit process to let third parties utilize the space. And they are not allowed to install any permanent structures within the space. It's a temporary use, which is more appropriate for a permit process or a licensing process than it would be for zoning. And the question that comes with that parks and public land use policy and all of the things that happen in parks is whether it's a park use, whether it's consistent with parkland use, and it's temporary, so it's not really appropriate as a question for zoning, but rather for that permitting process.
Mitch?
Question I asked before, and now that we have our city attorney here, I guess the person to ask is here. Is there a specific reason that we have to have such a fine-tuned list of uses allowed rather than a more broad statement about the types of activities we would like to see in this zoning category?
If I'm understanding your question correctly, it goes back to the basis of zoning, is that there can't be any uses that are disallowed within the municipality if they are legal uses. And so that's why we would list allowed uses within the zoning ordinance in every different zone. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, but like, why do we say, not just we allow theaters, but it is so specific that it only applies to one single theater in one single building?
For the Con Foster building you're
Yes.
talking about?
That's what it says, yeah.
Well, if we don't want to be here for 3 hours tonight, I don't know if I'll go into the whole backstory of the Con Foster building. But that was basically an outcome of litigation that led the city commission to the determination to add that specific use into the zoning ordinance.
And we couldn't have just said theaters are an allowed use.
Yeah.
I don't remember the specific, I mean, it was the outcome of litigation. Yeah.
Brian?
I mean, they could have.
Yeah.
But, it's just people who were there doing things at that time, and
Yeah.
it's a continuous, it's how specific do you want to be? And so we say municipal markets, which is pretty simple. Previous administrations got more specific about things because they just wanted to approve it for one thing, because they thought that was best. And I think it's a good question you have, though. Why are we so definitive about all these things? But because it's the way it is, and I don't want to spend a lot of time playing with it right now because it's not high on my priority list, because again, it's only things allowed by the city. But I would make an argument also, I could see, you could argue that if the city allowed a art show to go on in one of its parks, it would be in violation of the zoning ordinance because it's a municipal market, it's a municipal approved market, and I don't think we allow them. So, but I think we've been doing it for so long, why are we even talking about it? We might as well fix it now and just let it keep going unless people have a problem with it. And so far, I don't have a lot of people have a problem with the pavilion. They don't have a problem with the farmer's market. Two
Yeah,
separate
well,
items.
it is. Yeah. But to Mitch's point, if I'm a small theater group that's starting and I want to do some theater in a park and I read this, it makes me think I can only do it in a building built prior to 2013. And we don't want people to think that. I mean, I don't want people to think that.
I think you could always go in and ask to amend it again when we rewrite it and add
Yeah.
cultural events
Yeah.
Yeah.
of a short-term nature and leave it at that. And not only cultural facilities, but, that's, again, it's a question of use for structures. Do we regulate use? Do we regulate structures? Well, we regulate both, but not always. So is a temporary use allowed? Can I go start, I can't go open up a temporary week-long, landscape built facility or every weekend sell landscape things from my front yard. I got a lot of hostas I'm trying to get rid of, but might not be a bad idea. But the city wouldn't allow that. They'd let it go until somebody said something about it, then they'd come and tell me I can't do it anymore.
Well,
So is that an allowable use?
If it was the city Parks Department that was doing it, quite possibly.
In the city park, on city
Correct.
land. It would be in a municipal market. Wouldn't be a Bryan market. Maybe Bryan can sell his hostas there, I don't know. You know? It's just, I mean, you can argue this forever, but it's, again, it's something for a discussion further down the line, because,
Yeah, when we get to the uses allowed, I think we're gonna spend a lot of time in there.
yeah.
And we will remember this conversation when we get to uses allowed. I know we will.
We will.
Do we need to allow golf courses or outdoor swimming pools when neither exist in,
We do have an outdoor
This-
swimming pool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The splash pad is because we filter the water.
Mm-hmm.
We reuse the
But
water
it's
in the
not a
splash pad.
pool.
It is a swimming pool by definition.
It is defined, yeah.
So can I ask?
Yeah, sure,
um,
Megan?
So does this have to do with the pavilion, or is it separate? It's a separate, like, how is this connected to the Farmers Market Pavilion project, I guess?
It is connected
It
to the
is,
Farmers
okay.
Market
Mhm.
Pavilion
Okay.
Yeah.
project. Yeah.
We recently did that, and that exposed this uses allowed item.
I see, okay.
Which passed unanimously. Pavilion,
Correct.
passed us.
Yes, through us. Okay,
We approved it as consistent with the master plan.
correct. Mm-hmm.
And most people liked it.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah. Okay, let's move to public comment on this item. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Okay, seeing none, I'll close public comment on item B. Anything else from this body on that agenda item? Thank you, Lauren, for being here and adding to the discussion. Okay. Moving on to item C. We have a continued discussion on a zoning ordinance text amendment to classify auto-centric uses such as car washes, gas stations, and drive-throughs as uses requiring a special land use permit. This is a continued discussion. I believe the public hearing is also scheduled for that first meeting in May for this item as well. Turn it over to Leslie.
Yeah, so I did spend a little quality time with this, and I think I understand it now. So the idea is that currently, these uses are allowed as a use by right in various forms in the C2, C3, and D districts. And the proposal is to, wherever they're currently allowed as a permitted use, to move that to a special land use category. And any of the existing standards that apply to those uses that are already in the zoning ordinance, just to shift them and put them in the appropriate location in the chapter that addresses special land use standards. And while Sean was at it, he moved all of them to a more logical place and combined them, consolidated them in this proposal. So it's not, this proposal does not include any changes to those standards or even opens those up, but just moves them with the anticipation that a deeper dive would happen again with a full ordinance rewrite.
And for added context for the public, special land use permits just require more scrutiny. They come before us every time. So if, again, just to give a little recap, we heard from Tommy's, we were already talking about a rewrite and immediately saw a gap in our uses allowed and thought that at a minimum, we can put in more stringent requirements regarding a required review process by us instead of just by staff as an allowed use.
And can I just add
Yeah.
that although that helped to, make it a more urgent issue to be separated out from the full zoning ordinance rewrite, it is called for specifically in the master plan as an action item to reevaluate those uses and consider special land use designation for those.
Which is a good point. We decided as a Band-Aid, we would move on this right now and then readdress it again during the rewrite because we don't know if we're going to like this solution long-term. Mitch?
Yes, and I would say it would make sense to not just require a special land use permit, but limit these to specifically C3, but I don't want to do that using our current zoning map without a clear understanding of how many non-conforming uses that would then create. I mean, we already have both active drive-throughs and inactive drive-throughs in categories other than C3, like the Huntington Bank on West Front Street is C2. The Baird Building used to be a bank, does have a drive-through, they're not using it, but that's R1B. And yeah, I would like it to be not just a more stringent process by which developers go through to get a drive-through, a car wash, etc., but also a limitation to those parts of the city that are better suited than perhaps they were in the past. But I'm guessing we don't have a list of where all the drive-throughs in the city are.
You talking about non-conforming drive-throughs or all drive-throughs?
Well, I would say all drive-throughs that aren't in C3, but
I mean, if you've got an existing drive-through, you're pretty much going to have an existing drive-through. It's a non-conforming use, and it's going to continue to be allowed. There's nothing we can do about it. So, I mean, it's an interesting question, you know, about, and you can, you know, but I think here's a question. Do we want service stations and repair stations with no more than 2 bays with fuel dispensing in C2? Do we want fuel dispensing in C2? If we take out fuel dispensing, how many non-conforming uses does that create? I don't know. That's an interesting question. Do I like the way we write that? No, I hate that. What is 2 bays? Is that 2 pumps? Is that a lane on each side of a pump? Is that 2 pumps, 4 pumps?
Yeah, I don't know either.
What's 2 bays mean? Nobody even knows. Okay, I brought this up. I went through all of these.
Yeah, you did.
2 bays means east and west
Yes.
bay.
You know, and are we talking about really fuel service? Are we talking about service stations? Are we talking about vehicular service stations? Or does this include if I take my washing machine and it allows me to drop it off for service? Does that count as a repair station? You know, we're talking about gas stations. You know, are we talking about 2 bays with fuel dispensing? Are we talking about 2 bays of repair services? I don't know.
But isn't
is
this
like-
something we can look at in the rewrite?
Yeah.
I just think we're
Yes.
rewriting this now. My suggestion was fix it. You know, I mean, we're just, you know, it's a vehicular fuel service station, okay? Or fuel dispensing station and repair stations with no more than
Yeah.
2 fuel pumps,
Yeah.
you know, or 1 pump station? What's a bay? What's a pump station? It's both sides? I don't know.
Michelle?
If I would, this is, I mean, if we're looking at the use by right under this, it looks like service stations and repair stations with no more than 2 bays without fuel dispensing, meaning the service bays are most likely, you know, let staff, but they're most likely referring to those repair areas, so where you would see the car lift.
Right, but we also have it with fuel service.
But that's a special land use permit. That's what the suggestion is that you get rid of anything that has fuel dispensing becomes a special land use permit. So those repair stations, like I'm thinking about, what's the garage I want to own as in my old life? It's the green one.
Randy's.
Yes, it's so cute. So like something like that would be a use by right, whereas something that if they added, you know, it's Randy's out at Airport and Cass, they actually have fuel dispensing, so that becomes a special land use permit.
Right, the old Randy's used to too. They had
Yeah,
fuel
but
stations.
yes,
But
they don't.
The question is sort of like, why are we, it's very confusing. And it's using the same language to define 2 different things for uses by right and uses that are not by right.
Yeah.
And is a 2-bay repair service station still what we want in the city? I don't know if there are any. Is that acceptable?
And not to debate that, because I just was trying to look at that definition, but your questions actually prompted another one for me, if I may. Which is, Mitch had brought up the non-conforming, and you were talking about the, an existing drive-through, but not in use. Does that continue to have that right? If it's no longer in use, does it then fall subject to, if we move this to an auto-centric special land use permit, the building you mentioned, Baird, has an existing drive-through that's not in use? Where does that fall?
Yeah, I'd have to look at that and do the analysis based on whether it's there's two different kinds of nonconformities. So
Right.
I'd have to run through that analysis.
Because I think that actually would inform how important it is for us to think about this and the creation of non-conforming, or are we even getting meaningful change by not going deeper?
Because yes, there will be many of these autocentric uses that currently exist, even where we might not want them. Now we might be creating another one.
Yeah.
But as long as they are operating within the rest of our city and ordinances and state and federal law, et cetera, and continuing to be used in their original permitted use, yeah, there isn't much to do, but at what point have they not been using that, or are they changing from one development type to another? Does that then trigger something?
So can I just quickly add, although stop me if I'm oversimplifying it, but there is a classification of nonconforming uses, class 3, which are uses that were a use by right that became a special land use. And so that is a recognized status, and it tells you within the zoning ordinance how to treat those.
Okay.
That's why I said I have to read the words and run through the analysis.
It's chapter 1370.
It's my experience with non-conforming uses, and when this use allows them, really is a mishmash of different results based on different circumstances and how hard they want to regain that and what the judge says. So that's always a toss-up. But I mean, I have lots of questions about some of the stuff that we've have written in here. It's like, why does a bank drive-through have to access an alley, and do any of them actually do that? Can only have access to an alley, while a gas station can have access to the road, as can a car wash station. But banks and personal services are supposed to have access, only through an alley in some districts. Why do we have that?
Which is why we're doing the zoning rewrite.
I know, but it's also why do we even have that in there? My question is, we're going through all this. I mean, we can just slap it in, but we have bad language, we can change it now. Let's do some of it now. This is more of a issue coming forward. I'd just like some answers to some of these questions. Maybe there's good answers to it, I don't know. But it's also could be something like why we allow theaters built before 2013 municipally owned. Because it was written to address one bank, and that's kind of, there's a lot of that in our ordinance, which is why we need a rewrite.
Correct.
There's lots of questions here that things don't make any sense to me. And I don't even know what qualifies as an alley, but most of them have driveways to the street, and then you go through the parking lot. So, I don't know.
Debbie?
Eventually, we're going to vote on this, correct, at some point?
It's on the next meeting
hearing,
first
So
in,
can we vote separately on the SLUP part with the understanding that all these other questions will be coming up in the zoning rewrite? Because, the SLUP part for, what does it say, drive-throughs and gas stations, car washes, that kind of thing? Can we, or do we, because all you did was reorder the current language, correct? So can we, just vote on the SLUP part We all know that there's a lot of rewriting and explanation that has to happen, and then we can just do that moving forward through the rewrite.
I'm not sure that I fully understand the question, but are you saying leave the standards where they are?
No, well, no.
No, she's saying just adopt it the way it's presented by staff and not make any changes
And then
now.
we'd be-
And we can go back and review
Yes,
all this
the vote would
at a future
include the
time.
SLUP that you've suggested, which I think is a great idea. And then the rest of it, all this crazy language that we have a lot of questions about, we would discuss as we go through the review process.
So I think what you're suggesting then is not to move those standards from where they are right now, because again, these aren't proposing any new standards.
No, I know
These are
that.
just existing standards.
Yeah, I'm fine with moving them. I
Okay.
just want to make sure we can get that SLUP voted in, and then worry about what the language is saying later on when we're going through the review, because there is crazy
Yeah,
language that
so
needs to
I
be-
think that's
That is
kind
what we're doing.
of built into what the proposal
Yeah, okay,
from
all right,
staff
all right,
is.
okay.
Yeah, I think just Brian brought up a fair point, which is some of this we also just want clarity on. And it's basically a chicken or the egg again situation. Like, is it worth it to spend the time while we're looking at it now, trying to move on this one item versus moving on it now and then diving in a little deeper later on? We're gonna spend the time on it, but are we doing it now or are we doing it later? And in my opinion, as badly as I want to solve the definitions and uses, it goes back to the last conversation, which is that I want to act and move on this now so we're not in another situation like we were tonight in 2 months, because there are properties for sale right now, and we could be there. And I know I will want to have a way more thorough conversation than time allots for in the next 2 weeks about the definitions of all of these things. I also don't know how I feel about 2 bays versus, I don't want to think about that right now. I want to move on this thing that I know that we can take action on and could maybe prevent another sticky situation. Jerry?
Yeah, so on 8th and Garfield, the Jiffy Lube would be what I would consider 2 bays. It's like a small oil change place.
Is that right?
But that's what's saying that wouldn't require a special land use permit.
As long as it's not dispensing fuel.
Ah, I see.
Or isn't
Well, but oil would be considered
Fuel. Mm-hmm.
dispensing fuel.
I don't think so.
And aren't there conditions about vehicle trips generated as well that might elevate, like, this is how we had this here is 500 vehicle trips? But
That
it
would
also
be
wasn't
another-
a special land use permit.
Right, I'm just
Right.
wondering just thinking of when we're talking about bait, like, that's super small, and it probably doesn't have that many trips, but anyway.
Yeah, it's a good
An
example to think
of-
about.
Live across the street, I don't use it. Or out of.
Michelle? Yeah.
I have one clarifying question, and I think this is what the memo says, and I just really want to make sure I'm getting this. All of the requirements, so all we're doing is reclassifying these uses as a special land use permit, and the standards for approval were already in the ordinance. None of them are new.
Correct.
But it was a use by right,
Correct.
and they had to meet all those standards.
Correct.
So we're not adding additional standards with the exception of with a special land use permit, it must
Come
go,
before us.
come before us and city commission.
The way it's proposed is that it's a city commission approved one, not an administrative one.
Oh, perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
There are some minor changes and adjustments in the requirements in the special land use permit that have been added in.
There are.
They're minor, I don't think they're major, but they are in there. There's some things that were changed that we discussed at the last meeting that Sean brought up. I don't remember what they were.
I can watch the meeting.
But
do my
I
homework.
just think there was a couple things that were discussed, and Are we adding, and we're also adding traffic studies to this, correct?
Yeah.
So that's also,
that's changed.
yes, that's a completely new change.
He just, as far as I know, that was in Sean's memo, but that wasn't noticed. I had to send the notice before that. Before, so that.
I know, but that's.
But that's the intention, and we can notice it for the June meeting.
So that would not be included if we took a vote in May.
Correct.
And so special land use permits prior to this did not require a traffic study. It's the auto-centric ones that we're saying will require a traffic study. Okay.
Okay.
And I will go back and look at that meeting, thank you, because
Yeah, and the other
there are
thing is-
changes.
Yeah, and there's, I mean, when the reordering and how he moved things around, in some places like, he removed, where, because of the special land use permit, and it said in these districts, where it's required by special land use permit, and that's been removed. Personally, I like that being in there, because it told me, when I'm looking at these things, but, and because I'm a layman, for him, it makes more sense. So, but for me, it's just sort of like, what are we talking about? Where do we allow these things? Like theaters, live and performance arts centers, Oh, these are special land use permit, they're allowed in R3 multiple family dwelling districts. So this is another one of those things. I'm pretty sure this is for, it's one of, yeah. So, it's there for existing uses that we've created zoning to allow them. So, but apparently now you can get another one in a special land use permit. So, anyways,
Okay.
we have a lot
Any-
of these one-off rights in the zoning ordinance. I think this was so they could put the handicapped access on it. That was required.
Okay, I'm going to open public comment on this item, and then we'll come back and talk if there's anything else we want to talk about. We're also going to talk about it at the next meeting, so we're going to exhaust this one, I feel like. So we'll open public comment on this agenda item, which is you heard it all, the transference from a use by right into requiring a SLUP. Seeing none on this agenda item, kick it back to the board. Do we have any last thoughts on this before we part ways for a couple weeks and then talk about it again?
I think we should move on it faster.
Okay.
Special meeting next week?
Heard. Okay.
It's a Band-Aid, but it's something.
Yeah.
I agree.
So,
Agreed.
We should have moved on it a year ago, or more.
Yeah.
And then we wouldn't have this.
Well, I'm not a fortune teller, so
We're
sometimes
never
it
going to
would be
get
great.
anything 100%.
Yeah.
Like, that's never going to happen.
It's
But
true.
if we can continue to move the needle in the right direction, or what we think is the right direction based on the community, that's all that matters.
Okay, moving on to item D, the city attorney discussion. So this is something that Commissioner Hershey and I have talked about. And in light of the city attorney's notice and the need for the city commission to either reevaluate or hire a new individual, we thought that this would be a good time to discuss our needs as a commission separate from that. It's something that has come up a lot on occasion where we will say, for example, I wonder what the city attorney thinks about that, or we would like this run through them before we take action and make a decision, which then kicks the ball down the line. We have to wait another couple weeks. We see an agenda item again. We'll see them like 2 or 3 times sometimes because somebody won't bring up the fact that we want the attorney to review it. So I think this would help us out a lot in a moment where I think we have the potential for some change and for some more support. Commissioner Hershey, do you have anything to add that I left
Tonight
out?
was a perfect example. We had the city attorney here and how much smoother the meeting runs when we can ask the question directly, rather than asking either Sean or Leslie to get with Lauren to come back to it with a memo or something to us. And, Lauren works for the city, the city attorney works for the city, so sometimes those matters are ahead of ours, and so sometimes it takes a while. And, what we said in, just a proposed letter that we were writing is, we won't always need a city attorney here. We will probably know based on the agenda item of when we would need the person here or not. And it would be at regular meetings, most likely not study sessions, but we just wanted to have the option of having an attorney present when we need them. So.
Jerry?
I mean, just based on the conversation at last night's meeting, I mean, maybe that's something, if we have a law firm, that they can be available more to the planning commission, even remotely. Like as part of the proposal or RFP for.
Right,
yeah.
I did not get to review that meeting, so do our city commissioners have any summary that they could provide? Thank you, Jackie.
I'd be delighted. The direction was given by the city commission to issue an RFP for, to put a law firm on retainer that would give us access to multiple attorneys with multiple specialties, that we are expecting them to come back to the city commission, not only with that RFP, but also with a proposed rubric for evaluating submissions against the RFP. And then in addition, there was conversation about the fact that the city attorney at this point is one of 2 employees that report directly to the city commission. And so to understand more about that relationship, should we end up retaining a firm rather than an individual?
Yeah,
So-
versus the manager, city manager, is what you mean.
The city manager actually does not have a voice, I believe, in this decision. This is a decision on the part of the city commission itself.
Yeah.
So if you have, if you would like to express what you see as your planning commission needs, I think this is an opportune time, and that communication should go to the city commission itself, would be my suggestion.
Yeah, I should have clarified. I'm sorry. I meant the city manager and the city attorney are the 2 roles that respond to that are managed directly by the city
Correct.
body.
The
That's
direct
what I was,
reports
yeah.
of the commission.
Perfect,
The
thank you.
only 2.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yep, and we can, I can make sure that those, if you have other specific desires for services for this board, other than just availability, I can make sure that those end up in the RFP as well, that's going to be reviewed by the city commission on May 4th, and we can go from there.
Brian?
Lauren, do you think it would be advantageous to have proposed zoning changes reviewed by the city attorney or city attorney firm prior to a vote and a recommendation by the planning commission? Because normally, sometimes it happens, but a lot of times it just gets reviewed when it goes up to the city commission.
I think it depends a lot on the amendment sometimes too. More simple amendments, you know, it may not be quite as necessary, but yeah, I think it's a good idea to have it reviewed before it goes to the city commission, especially if it's a more complex type of an issue.
Thank you.
Jerry?
Yeah, and I think just some of this is trying to prevent like lawsuits and things, right? I mean, and protect ourselves. So yeah, we're not lawyers this is complicated, so, yeah, I just think, to Debbie's point, if we just need assistance. We can still do our job, but we're not here to make any kind of legal opinion on some of this. So,
Right,
yeah.
Yeah. Debbie?
We just want to make sure that, because the proposed letter went out to everybody, correct?
Yes.
So we want to make sure everybody's happy with that and that, you know, it's not just coming from two of us, it's coming from all of us, and that you're okay with that.
Yeah, so I'd say send any notes to Katie, and then she'll feed that out to us to add to the letter. And then I think any other requirements, kind of like what Brian just proposed, we can definitely add that in there, and Lauren can add that to the RFP. So I think there's kind of two paths and routes. One is what we would like to see added into the RFP, or into the rubric, I'm sorry. And then the other route is just our stance on the request.
Are you
Brian?
looking-
Oh, sorry.
No, Brian.
I was just saying, are you looking for more commissioners to be added to this letter, or? will it suffice?
I think we would like to send it from the body if we get buy-in from the whole body. If we get somebody that doesn't want this, please let us know, and then we won't send from the body. Then I would have to take like a roll call. But I think it would be more, obviously we have two city commissioners that can speak to these conversations, but I think it is more representative of the body to have a written statement that can just be forwarded on to them, and then they can ask questions. Brian?
So, I think one of the predicaments we find ourselves in here is that most of our actions are recommendations to the city commission. Okay, literally what we just adopted, the site plan review, was the only action we take that's a final action. Everything else we do is simply a recommendation to the city commission. And sometimes, depending on the workload of the city attorney, those final recommendations don't get reviewed by the city attorney, or if we make changes on the fly, they don't get reviewed until it goes up to the city commission. And then, if the city attorney has an issue with the language, then it delays everything then. And sometimes it never comes back to us, and things get lost. So I think having, an attorney review these things, when we're looking to, at some point in the process, earlier or in the middle, would be a time saver for everyone involved, so we don't get pushed down the wrong road. Whether or not we need an attorney here at our regular meetings or special meetings, I think sometimes it's gonna, if I'm the city commission, I think I'm looking at the budget and I'm saying,
But it would be
even
all
if
the
they,
time.
if we take a bad step, it's just it's really for, I think I can see them saying, maybe it's not worth it, simply because it's our final decision whether we turn review it then. Efficiently wise, I think it's better off in the long term for everyone and everyone's time involved, not just ours, but staff time, is to have it reviewed sooner rather than later. I could be wrong. I mean, Lauren probably, is a better handle on that than I do. I just know that, depending on what's going on in the world of the city, it's, sometimes you just got to get in the queue and wait. I think that's going to happen no matter what the city does.
And when you're defining sooner rather than later, are you envisioning that, like for example, with not a Tommy's, because that was separate, but with an item like the other two conversations, the municipal markets or the open space, are you envisioning we talk about it and move
if
to
we're
have the
gonna-
public
I'm
hearing?
thinking that we're reviewing this. Right now, we have a major change to the zoning ordinance. I think before we take a vote on it, it would be nice to have the city attorney review it. At the same time, it's 4 chapters, and all that moving stuff around means it's, I mean, I went through it, and it took me about 3 hours, and I wasn't looking at it for, legal niceties. So it's a ton of time. So, it'd be nice to get it done before we send this up to the city commission to make sure, all our ducks in a row. But again, it's just a queuing thing.
Yeah, dependent upon a lot of variables. But I agree, I think that this is kind of what Debbie and I were speaking to, which is like, it helps knowing that the attorney has reviewed this, signed off on it. That memo is from both the planning director and the attorney because they both looked at it. And there's like maybe a little blip in a memo, reviewed and signed off or reviewed, and here are our notes or comments. I think that is really helpful before we take the action, at least in my perspective, like before we have the public hearing on an item. Debbie?
So here's my thought. There's been a couple of times, tonight included, where in our packet it says, you can't vote no on this unless you can prove the legal reason. Be nice to have an attorney here to say, is my reason legal? Is there case law on that says my reason that I'm coming up with is legal? That would be very helpful, and would make these votes sometimes easier than sitting around speculating and wondering. So.
Yeah.
It's not a
That
question of
one's-
your point's legal, it's just that you have to have a finding of fact.
Right.
Which is not a legal point. It's a question of, these are our findings. We find that this does not meet these standards and this standard or that standard.
But you have to prove it.
Well, you have to define
Technically,
why
the-
you're,
The city attorney will have to
Yes.
prove it.
eventually down the line, they
We
could.
sue.
Here, and then
Yeah.
I could
But,
say.
I mean, yeah, you have to have some basis
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
any findings. What staff presented to us was, that is the findings of
Correct.
fact.
Yeah.
That's their basis, that's the review. So you would have to come in and say, this is what I disagree with.
Yes.
For us to put a motion in, and we have to create our own findings of facts and say it does not meet the zoning ordinance for these reasons. I looked, I couldn't find any legitimate, what I consider legitimate reasons. But whether or not I consider them legitimate or the city attorney considers them legitimate, city attorney's got, that's a whole different question. I mean, I can have a finding and she can say, she's going to say, well, yeah, that's questionable, but
But if she were sitting here instead of waiting for that, it would make things a lot smoother, as far as I'm concerned. But
yeah, it's true. But this is literally the only thing we do where we have the final say, literally.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. We can also adopt a master plan,
yes,
which can then be either accepted by the city commission, ignored, or rejected. So that can be or might not be the final thing we do, but, it's just, I mean, yeah. I understand what you're saying. You want an attorney here.
not all the time.
I'm just like,
Not all the time.
Well,
tonight would have been a good night for it.
And it
we
was a
appreciate
good night, and yours
we
was.
appreciate the city attorney being here.
Michelle?
technically, the last vote
Give
on
her
the
swan song.
Go ahead, Michelle.
I just wanted to express that I support the letter and the sentiment behind it, in that it's not going to always be necessary. And I also recognize Ryan's thoughts in that, there's not a lot that we take final say on, but I do think in the past it has given commissioners some confidence in what they're doing, and I do think it's probably not every time, but having the ability to incorporate that resource to a board of volunteers and lay people would be really nice. So I probably won't send an email, but there's my support. I'm on board with the sentiment of the letter as it stands, and certainly when we talk about when we're changing zoning, things like that, having that reviewed prior to going to city commission. And I know that wasn't in there, but I do support that.
And again, there will be times also where that person, that individual, that firm will have to make a decision between planning and city. There are things that we pass them that they don't like, and they will pass back and forth and back and forth. But it, in my opinion, I think it could strengthen our assessment, maybe validate our work. Oftentimes our work can be just discredited, like we haven't actually worked on an item for a prolonged period of time and we haven't had it reviewed by the attorney and all of these things. And I think all of them are kind of check marks along the way to say, like, yes, this is the work that we have done at the Planning Commission level, City Commission. Here is what we are giving you. Yeah. So I guess stay tuned. Let us know your thoughts. And let Lauren know your thoughts also. Okay, did I already do public comment on this item? I did not. Okay, public comment on Agenda D item, the city attorney discussion. Sure, yeah, yep, yes, it's for the people at home.
Steve Brown, 1039 East State Street, and very briefly, I've been in your shoes, and I've served as a public official elected in a different place, and been through this discussion 17, 18 years ago, and I think you're going in the right direction. I think there are a number of reasons to help have coverage for your discussions legally, advice, not just substantive input on decisions, while that's probably the most important. A firm can have a lead counsel, and then they will have other folks who might have a particular interest and knowledge in land use planning that could be particularly helpful for you. And so I encourage you to do that, think about that. The other thing that happens is life happens and people move on. And if you have somebody who's been involved additionally as an attorney working in the city, in the town, wherever you are, it can be come to be helpful. So I think this is a good idea. And I think this might be a good opportunity for somebody from the public to say out loud, thank you. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment on this agenda item? Okay. Thank you. Moving on to announcements. Anything from staff? No? Other than the planning conferences this weekend and early
Yes,
next
the
week?
Planning conferences this weekend. Anna, Mitch, myself, and Sean will all be there.
The National Planning Conference
Yeah.
in Detroit. Okay, that's the only announcement. Yes. Moving on to general public comment. So this can be on any topic one might see fit.
And Steve Brown, 1039 East State Street. It didn't occur to me until the end of the presentation on Tommy's and the discussion, but I have a question about this, which it may seem odd, which is that they're going to purchase and combine two lots into one lot in order to be able to create what they want to create. It's sort of the antithesis of a subdivision. But if I wanted to do that with a lot that I live next to, and I did that, would I then put an application for a land development proposal that I wanted to create on that combined lot through a subdivision chapter of the ordinance, of the code? Or is it not applicable? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can answer. Usually we don't answer public
Yeah,
comment.
we
but
don't,
The city's platted, and so we wouldn't go through a subdivision process for that within the city.
Right, okay. Just to be clear, the reason I ask is that that gives you guys a whole lot more leeway to raise issues, I think, if I read the subdivision chapter better, or well. Maybe it doesn't, but anyway, it's a moot point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Doug Kimball, 523 North Spruce Street. First, congratulations to the candidates that were appointed to the commission. I want to recall the comments of Chet Janik that he delivered to a city meeting on governance. And he said that people serve in committees and boards, people that do serve in committees and on boards, do so acting in the best interest of the residents and to improve the lives of the citizens of Traverse City. So that's the residents who live here right now, the citizens who live here right now. And just in case the new commissioners weren't following the process of the creation of the master plan, I and many of my neighbors attended listening sessions before the master plan, open houses, we spoke at meetings, planning commission and city commission meetings over and over about having, in opposition to having Bay Street designated as a transitional neighborhood on the future land use map. So, and the planning chairperson at the time said that neighborhood preservation was the top concern, that the plan was based on resident input, that the citizenry wrote the plan. So imagine how that sounds to me, to my neighbors who went to all these meetings, went to the listening sessions, saying that we don't want the neighborhood changed or put designated as a transitional neighborhood. Sounds pretty tone deaf to me after all we've done. And we then submitted a petition with well over 300 signatures saying just this. You know, we would like to just remain R1B and not be designated as a transitional neighborhood. And so preservation of the neighborhood, Planning Commission says, number one goal, strategic plan says preservation of the neighborhood, and even in talking about rewriting the zoning code, you said, you know, leave the neighborhood characteristics intact, leave neighborhoods intact. But yet, we're still transitional neighborhood. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'll close public comment, and this meeting is adjourned.
Thanks for having a meeting half the length of city commission last night.
It was 4 hours last night.
Yes.